Okay, let's begin. All right, so welcome to the pelvic floor class. So welcome to the pelvic floor class. We're going to start sitting and find a position where you're sitting on your sit bones that's comfortable. So you might be cross legs or you might have your knees bent like this, if that feels better. Either way is fine. But I just want you to get into a position where you can feel that you're on your sit bones. Okay, because that's going to be really important for this next, for basically setting up where our pelvic floor is and noticing where we want to be feeling it. So with our pelvic floor, we know that it's a set of muscles that basically holds all our organs, it supports everything, it's basically holding everything up. And if there's dysfunction in the pelvic floor area, then that's never good. So we want to keep the muscles of the pelvic floor need to be able to contract, they need to be able to be strong, they need to be able to relax as well, they need to be set up so they can do short, sharp, quick contractions and slow, long holding contractions, and sort of quite strong ones as well. So we need the pelvic floor to be really, really functional. So we're just going to figure out where we want to be feeling that, because sometimes what happens is because they're such small internal muscles, we sometimes overwork the global muscles and it's quite hard to get that connection and understand where we're meant to be feeling it. So when you're sitting on your sit bones, they're your ischial tuberosities. Think of those as sort of, east and west. And then you've got your north and south, which is your pubic bone at the front and your coccyx at the back. So it forms like a little diamond shape. So you've got your two sit bones, pubic bone, coccyx, little diamond shape that you're basically sitting on at the moment. And we're not going to try to do anything, we're just going to think about it, because even just thinking about doing something in your body is going to send the signal to that area and bring the focus to that part of the body, and it will actually do something. You haven't always got to actively move body parts or try to tense muscles or try to engage muscles. So if you think about where your sit bones are at the moment, you can feel them on the floor there, it's quite easy to feel where they are. Just imagine that you are now trying to pull those sit bones together. And you'll definitely do not squeeze your bottom, don't try to do anything. Just think about bringing the sit bones together. And you should get like a little feeling of like a little flicker going on. Should feel like a little flicker's happened. I can just feel something going on there. Okay, and we're going to just focus on that feeling. Don't try too hard. Just think about, if simply by thinking about bringing the sit bones together, you're activating these little muscles that help to support your pelvic floor, or the muscles of the pelvic floor even. Okay, and you might just get like a little feeling, and that's okay. And let's incorporate the breath into that. So as you're getting that feeling of them coming together, we're going to incorporate an exhale. And just keep going. Every time you inhale and release, just let them gently relax and gently let go. So you're thinking about those two sit bones, okay? So then you've got your pubic bone at the front and coccyx at the back. This time, instead of bringing the two sit bones together, think about bringing the back to the front. Bring the coccyx towards the pubic bone. Okay, so when you're breathing out, you're bringing the back towards the front. And again, it's super important that you don't do any squeezing or tensing. So make sure your bottom isn't squeezing, you're not tensing up, you're just engaging. Okay. And it's just that coming together, back to front. Gently releasing. Now, if you're finding that difficult to go back to front, think about drawing up through back passage. So you've got 3 holes, 1, 2, 3 underneath. As a woman, men have 2. But we're going to go back passage, middle, front. Okay, so as you breathe out, think back passage, middle, front. And you want to lift. It should feel like your pubic bone is just lifting. That's the feeling you want to have, like a sort of lift up feeling. The front bit's always the hardest bit to get. So that, what you're feeling there, those little flickers on the mat, and if you're not feeling anything, don't worry. Don't worry, it would just, if you weren't feeling it, it would just mean that the muscles are just not as strong as they need to be. But even by thinking of doing it and just thinking about those connections, thinking about what you need to be doing, will start to strengthen them. And then eventually you will start to feel something. So now we've worked out where we need to be feeling it. We are going to start to incorporate some Pilates exercises, and we're going to do the exercises with the connections and the breath, and we're going to sort of put it all together, specific exercises that are really designed to help strengthen the pelvic floor. Okay, so let's lay down, and just for a moment, just bring your knees and feet hip width apart. Okay, just bring us that nice alignment. Place your hands on your rib cage and just gently do a few breaths in and out. So you're just breathing into the lower part of the lungs. And as you're breathing out, you're just allowing those ribs to just gently relax. And just do one more. When the body is able to relax, the pelvic floor can function a lot better. Place your arms down by the side of your body, okay? And think about that diamond, yeah? The 2 sit bones, the coccyx and the pubic bone, making a diamond shape. We know where we need to be drawing in. And we're going to just start to gently roll the pelvis through north and south, through that anterior and posterior tilt. And now we're going to add some breathing into that. As you go into the posterior tilt, you're going to breathe out. Inhale to go into the anterior tilt. Exhale. Inhale. And again, guys, this is just gentle. What we don't want to do is squeeze the bottom. Okay, so make sure your bottom isn't squeezing. Now, as you breathe out and go into the posterior tilt, that's when you're going to draw up through that diamond. And then you're going to inhale and relax back out. Exhale, draw the diamond as you go into the posterior tilt. Inhale as you go back out the other way. And actually laying down has got a lot of benefits when you're, and especially doing this exercise, working the pelvic floor because of gravity. The more we work, eventually, obviously, we want to be doing the exercises standing up, because we don't lay down all day, we stand up, we sit down, you know, we're up. So we want the pelvic floor to be functioning when walking around, but it's easy to find a connection. So you should, hopefully, as you're going into this pelvic posterior tilt, you can feel that drawing up feeling. And then release. Okay, so we've gone forwards and backwards. Okay. Let's just take the pelvis side to side. What's really important is that we're balanced in our bodies. So everybody is a little bit rotated in the pelvis. Everyone's got a slight rotation. But the more we can bring our pelvis back into a more neutral balance, the better it's going to be for our pelvic floor. If we're really rotated or we've got a real imbalance in the pelvis positioning, that's going to have a big effect on the pelvic floor, because the pelvic floor is then not going to sit in the right place, which is then going to lead to dysfunctions. So just notice as you're rocking side to side with your pelvis, just check in and think to yourself, how does that feel? Does one side feel very different to the other? And we're just rolling side to side. Okay, or rocking side to side. Nice, and then just hold it in the center. So we're going to go round to those 4 points. Okay, let's just get the positioning first. So I'm going to tilt my pelvis forwards. Then I'm going to go to the side. Then I'm going to tilt the pelvis backwards. And then go to the other side. Same way, forwards, side, back, side, and keep going the same way. I'll let you know when we change to the other side. So it's all about getting mobility in the pelvis. That's really important. So now try to smooth it out. Inhale as we go forwards, exhale as we go back. So it's can you, and just breathe, just keep breathing, but can you, as you go into that back part of the circle, here, where you go into the posterior aspect of that circle, that's when you're going to draw up through the pelvic floor. So as I tip the pelvis into the posterior tilt part of the circle, that's when I'm drawing up. And it really is that feeling of bringing those 4 points of that diamond shape together. Just coming together gently. Should feel like a little tissue being pulled out of the box. Let's stop in the center and then let's go the other way. So I'm going to go for an anterior tilt. I'm going to go to the side, a posterior tilt, and then the other side. So I'm just slowly moving around those 4 points. And then once you've got it, start to go slow circling. And you might feel that one way is definitely easier than the other. Okay, it might feel a little bit like there's some icky bits or some bits that maybe don't flow as well, and that's okay. It's just noticing what's going on. And obviously we want to try and bring it as balanced as we can. So now you're bringing that pelvic floor connection. You draw up through the pelvic floor as you go round the posterior part of the circle. And just keep going with it. Try and set that pattern. And getting some mobility. If we've got restrictions in our pelvis, then we will have dysfunctions in the pelvic floor, more than likely. And then stop in the middle, make sure you're back in neutral. Okay, so a really great exercise for the pelvic floor are knee drops. Because you're going to be moving, this is a knee drop where the knee goes out and comes back in. You're going to be focusing on the pelvis stabilizing. Okay, so you're going to have flat across the top and like a little gap up. You're in neutral. You don't want to have a big gap you can get your whole hand under, and you don't want to have your back pushing into the floor. You want to have that neutral spine. So just choose one leg, okay, and we're going to stay with that same leg. And we're going to get the movement going first, then I'll cue the breath, and then I'll cue where the activation comes. So the movement is out and in. Now, it's kind of, it's not important how wide that knee goes. So please don't go too far with the leg when you're taking it out to the side, because it's not, this exercise is not anything really about that leg that's moving. It's about the other leg that isn't moving. That's the one we're focusing on, the still leg, and making sure it doesn't go anywhere. So that opposite leg, the one that's not moving, is going to stay super still. And you're going to focus on keeping your pelvis really steady. So it's like you've got two spears going through your hip bones. Pelvis can't move. As one leg is moving, that other one stays in position. So now we're going to add some breathing. Inhale to open and exhale to close. Inhale to open, exhale to close. So then we're going to bring in the pelvic floor contraction. So you inhale, open. As you exhale and come back, that's when you're going to lift up through your diamond. Okay, so that's when, on the exhale, coming back in, you're going to bring all four corners of that diamond together. So you're bringing the sit bones together, you're bringing the pubic bone towards the coccyx, and that's what's happening as that leg's coming back in. Think about your sacrum, that big triangular bone at the bottom of the spine. It should be nice and still. If it's moving around, we haven't quite got stability, so then we may have to reduce the range of movement. And then hold it there, finish that one. Let's change to the other side. So open and close to start with, just get the movement going, but don't go too far because we're focusing on the steady leg. This is the important one, the one that's not moving. So when you're moving, when you're abducting your leg in hip flexion, which is this move, there's some really important muscles of the pelvic floor that help support the pelvic floor, obturator internus. When those muscles are not strong, you have a lot of dysfunction in the pelvic floor. So the way that you can tone those muscles is by working through hip flexion in abduction, which is this exercise. So that's one of the reasons why this is a great exercise to do. So as you exhale and bring that leg back in, that's when you're going to start to lift up through the pelvic floor. Inhale, open. As you exhale and come back, draw up through the diamond. That's where we want to get the connection. As you're doing this exercise, just check in with what your head and neck are doing. Make sure you're not tipping your head back. You should be looking at the ceiling in front of you and not the ceiling behind you. That's important, okay? Okay, well done. Keep the pelvis really still. You notice you've got your hands on if you've got your fingertips on your hip bones, you can tell if the pelvis is moving around, if it's staying nice and still. Let's do one more. Okay, so arms down by the side of the body, feet and knees hip width. We're going to go back into that posterior tilt. So I'm going to get you guys to roll to the tip of the sacrum without squeezing your bottom and roll back out. Now, as you roll to the tip of the sacrum, that's when I want you to think about that tissue being pulled out of the box. And just keep going like that, but don't squeeze the bottom. Just initiate the movement from the diamond. The diamond pulls and draws you into that tilt. Okay, so you're starting by connecting with the diamond, and that's what's drawing you into that lift. So we're going to start to go a little bit further. We're going to go a little bit further up the spine. So you will squeeze your bottom once you come off of the mat, but I've not gone too high, just a little bit, and then rolling down. We're going to start to increase this movement until we do actually come up to a shoulder bridge. So you are going to roll your pelvis away. You come up to the top, your pelvis is higher than your ribs, your knees are pressing away from your shoulders, and then you scoop and come down. But now you do have to use the glutes, because if you don't squeeze your bottom, you will end up just hanging out of the lower back. It's really important the ribs don't flare. Now on this next one, you're going to come up and stay there. Staying at the top, thinking about the knees reaching away from the head. Stay in position, you're not going to move. Take a breath in. As you breathe out, draw out through the diamond. Notice where it comes to. Inhale, release it away. Exhale, draw up through the diamond. Inhale, release it away. Exhale, draw up through the diamond. Inhale, release it away. And then scoop the belly, keep the curve of the spine as we gently roll down. Okay, so we're going to do that again. It's 3 times. So we roll to the top. We're going to do 3 breaths. When we exhale, we draw up through the diamond and contract the pelvic floor muscles. And it's going to be, you're going to try and do it in a gradual way. So not a sort of grip or just a little bit where there. You're going to try to keep it going and then release it away. Now, if staying in the top of that bridge is too much for you, you can do a little mini bridge down here and do the same thing, okay? And if that felt like it was too much, just don't go, just go to a posterior tilt and do it from there, okay? So if you need to regress it a little bit, that's okay. All right, guys, so we're going to roll to the top. Pelvis nice and level, soften the ribs, flatten the tummy. 3 times, inhale, prepare. As you breathe out, you draw up through your diamond and lift up through that pelvic floor. Then you inhale and you let the muscles release slowly and gradually. Again, you slowly draw up like a slow continuation. Keep those knees pressing away from the head. When you inhale, you slowly let go. And then one more, you're going to slowly draw up, 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 up. Inhale slowly away. And then you would exhale and roll down. Lovely. Okay, so let's just think about our thoracic spine, our upper mid back. We want to feel like we're getting some nice extension through there. So let's just do some nice, I'm going to move down a bit because I'm going to hit the sofa. You're going to move your arms into some nice circles and just get some lovely feeling of lengthening your spine. Inhale, lift. Exhale, lower. Now think about the connections between your rib cage and your hips. So as your arms are going overhead, you're going to make sure your back doesn't ping up, yeah? So just thinking, actually, I need to funnel my ribs down to my hips as the arms go overhead. Now think about your pelvic floor. As your arms are going over your head and you're funneling your ribs down to your hips, breathe out. And that's when you're going to draw up through the pelvic floor. Okay. So I'm lifting my arms up, and at the same time my pelvic floor lifts. There's no squeezing going on, just like a drawing up feeling. The shoulders are really relaxed. And one more. Okay, well done. All right, awesome. So I'm going to get you guys now to come onto your hands and knees. Okay, 4-point kneeling. Okay, all right, so just check in and make sure you've got your hands underneath your shoulders and your knees underneath your hips. Okay? And the back is nice and long. It's not dipping or hunching. So we're going to bring it back to that breath control. First of all, just make sure your head is on top of your shoulders. It's not down here. We're not down here. We're lifted. We're just pushing the floor gently away. Take a breath in. And as you breathe out, gently draw your hands towards your knees and your knees towards your hands. Inhale and release. Every time you exhale, you're just gently pulling your hands towards your knees and your knees towards your hands when you breathe out. And when you breathe in, you release. And you don't sort of just go, oh, let go. It's a gradual release as well. So you can't really see anything happening, but you can feel it. So you're not actually moving your hands and knees, but just that feeling of drawing the knees towards the hands and the hands towards the knees, coming together. That's when you'll feel it activate just by doing that. When you release, what's important is we sometimes do a really nice job of slowly drawing in, and then we just sort of let go. We've got to gradually let go as well. So as you're breathing out and you're putting your hands to knees, knees to hands, yeah, you're doing that little drawing in feeling. You should feel connections. You should feel those deep connections in your center. And then actively start to bring in the pelvic floor connection. You'll feel, you won't have to do much, you can feel just by pulling the hands and feet together, or hands and knees together, you'll feel those internal connections. So now stay in 4-point kneeling. We're going to do little poppies in the snow. So you're not going to make sure your elbows aren't locking out, softening. I'm going to really, really slowly bend my elbow so my hand hovers off the mat. And then I place it down. And then the other side. Now what I don't want is my shoulders to move. So I don't want to like lift my shoulders to take one. It's not coming from the shoulder joint. I have to bend the elbow because I don't want my shoulder girdle area to actually move. I also don't want to slump into the side. So I'm actually really stabilizing my body. It's staying really still. Imagine you've got a tray of drinks on your back that you don't want to spill. Okay. Exhale, the hand floats up. Inhale, it goes down. Exhale, float. Inhale, down. And the lower you lift that hand off the floor, the better. Like hardly lift it. You can see when I'm doing it, I'm barely taking my hand off the floor to make it more challenging. It's really easy just to pick it up like this. If you just let it hover and go really slow with it, you'll really feel it. So I want you to now add the breath, okay? So it's exhale, float, inhale down. Exhale to lift, inhale to come down. And you should literally, when you place that hand down, you should feel like nothing needed to adjust. It just went back into that nice strong position. You didn't feel any sort of bobbing around. So you have to bend the elbow in order for the hand to move. As you exhale and take the hand off and it floats, that's when you feel that connection. You're using your breath. And that little diamond is coming together. All four corners of the diamond are coming together as you just float that hand off of the mat. We're going to do one more each way. Awesome. And then just go into a bit of a cat stretch. Lift up. Head comes in one way, tail the other. And then stretch it away into a long spine. Let's go again. Scoop up. And back out into a flat back. And one more. Reach it up. Okay, well done. Then just give your wrists a bit of a circle. If you're getting a bit sore, you were laying there. Okay, we're going to lay on our side now. And you might need a pillow to place between your arm and your head. Okay guys, so you're going to make a nice lovely long line from the top of your head to your toes. Okay. If you're somebody that can't get their bottom arm to go up like that, you could have it there. Okay. All right, so you're just going to check you can see your feet. There they are. Yeah. And your pelvis is stacked. I want you to now lengthen your legs away from your head. Let them go long. So you're reaching them away from the top of your head. Okay, so the legs are going far away from where your head is. And that creates this stacking effect of the pelvis and this lovely little gap underneath here. So we're going to do the movement and then we're going to bring in the pelvic floor activations. Reaching up and down. I'm just lifting up and down, okay? Now as I lift the leg, I don't want it to go too high. It goes just about to the level of the hip. Maybe less for some people because you've got to keep the stacking effect. If when you lift the leg up, you can feel the waistline get closer to the floor, that means that the pelvis is just collapsing there, there's no stability there. So we're going to lift the leg and keep that pelvis in the same position. Inhale, lift. Exhale to lower. Inhale, lift. Exhale, lower. Keep going like that. Get this breathing pattern. Keep the legs going very long. Yeah, that's the feeling. Don't overly point the toes because you'll get cramp, but long legs. So now, as you bring the leg down and you're breathing out, that's when you draw up through the diamond. So remember, you're thinking up through the back passage, middle, front. You're bringing the sit bones together. You're bringing the pubic bone towards the coccyx, and you're working this muscle, glute med. Glute med, I'm always talking about it. It's a very important muscle, particularly when it comes to the pelvic floor. Okay, because if the glute med is weak and it's not functioning as it should, then the dominant hip flexors tend to take over and they pull your pelvis into a weird position, which means everything's not sitting in the right position. It's not sitting in its right place, which means, you know, things can get affected, things press onto the bladder, nothing's in its correct position, which leads to dysfunction in the pelvic floor. So this is a muscle that very much needs to be strengthened. Very much needs to be strengthened. Can we get that feeling of when we're lowering the leg, we're controlling it coming down and we're just lifting up through the pelvic floor. And one more. Lovely. Before we go to the other side, just get rid of the pillow for a second, lay on your back. Bring your arms down by the side of your body. Reach the fingertips away from the head. So you've got space between your ears and your shoulders. And just make sure you're looking at the ceiling in front of you and not the ceiling behind you. You're then going to reach the fingertips a little bit further forward and float them off of the floor. And I just want you to lightly start to just slowly beat the arms down, but not fast. You can see I'm going very slow. But think about where the movement's coming from. It's not coming from the hands, it's coming from the top of the arm. That's where you want the movement to come from, around sort of the armpit. Add a little breath. We might go a bit slower than that actually, it's quite fast. Now this is where life gets interesting. We want the pelvic floor to be able to do quick reactions, like if we sneeze or jump, yeah? But that's the most challenging way of training. Like when we're doing these exercises, they're the really difficult ones to get. It's quite easy to do like a slow pull. Well, it's not easy for everybody. That's the easiest way. When we're doing short, sharp like that, and every time you breathe out, you contract and release, that's very, very hard to do. So that's why we're going to go really slowly, because I want you to sync the activation with the breath and the press. So every time I breathe out and press down, I'm drawing up through my pelvic floor. When I inhale and release, I have to let the pelvic floor go. Because sometimes what else we do is we're very good at contracting the muscle and then we don't release it. And then that can cause dysfunction. So we've got to be able to contract, release. So even that could be quite fast. So slow it down, work at a pace that works for you. But remember, be mindful with it. Don't just kind of start and then not actually do the activations. So as you press down and breathe out, you draw up. When you inhale and release, you let go. Just start going quite slowly with it. Because then you might go, oh, I've lost that a little bit. I need to restart. Because you keep going, guys, you actually have got to release. You've got to think, I've got to contract and release. Contract and release. And it can be very tricky. Give yourself a chance, yeah? Or you've got to really tune in with it, because sometimes we think we're doing it and we're not. We're just sort of pulled in and we're beating the arms and we're doing the breath and we've just held the pelvic floor up. What we're trying to do here is contract and release. Contract and release. So I'm contract, release. Contract, release. As the arms go down, contract. When the arms go up, release. Contract and release. Contract and release. Contract and release. And that can be a job to do. So that might be a better tempo. Obviously, when you get really experienced, but that's hard. It's very hard. Okay. All right. Well done, guys. Let's roll on to the other side. And let's establish that nice long line. Okay. There we go. Perfect. All right. So you reach your legs away from your head. stretch them away from you. Nice and stacked. And we're going to do the movement first. So long legs, reach that top leg slightly longer than the bottom one. Lift and lower. Keeping this little gap under the hip. Lift and lower down. Reach it away and lower. Lovely. So inhale to lift, exhale to lower. Inhale, lift, exhale, lower. And then as we let that leg lower down, that's when we draw up. Okay. Inhale, exhale, draw up through the pelvic floor. Inhale, lift, exhale, draw up. And these are just these gradual ones that build. And releasing. And drawing up. And releasing. And drawing up. Lovely. Good, so no tension. Make sure we've got this nice gap underneath, we're nice and stacked. And your adductors are really instrumental with the pelvic floor. We're working through those adductors, gently bringing the legs together. Let's do one more. And relax, well done. Okay, so we're going to get rid of the pillow, we're going to lay back onto our backs. Okay. So this time, we've done little ones. We're going to do basically the same movement, but you're going to hold it for a long time, and instead of like a gradual build, it's going to be a quickly up, stay, a strong lift, and then a gentle release, okay? So when I press the arms down, my pelvic floor and releases away. So it's a really strong, fast, sharp one, but a real strong connection. So you're going to go as strong as you can, lift and reach away. So we're going to go for strong connections, not gradual builds and not quick release. Yeah, there's 3 types of contractions. You've got the slow build up, you've got the quick, the harder, the really hard ones, because you've got to contract and release very quickly, the quick fire ones, and then you've got the strong ones that need to just hold. They're the ones that you've got to make sure you definitely don't start gripping other muscles, okay? So when we press the arms down, in fact, tell you what, let's make this a bit more challenging even. Let's come up, so we've been laying down for a long time. We'll do it on our knees, okay? So it is more difficult when you're up because obviously now gravity plays a part. But the movement is going to be same as on the floor, we're going to press. So I'm just going to go keep going. See, that's the movement. You're going to keep doing that. You're doing it. I'm just going to be chatting. Just keep going, guys. As you press those arms back, that's next to this strong connection coming up, and then a gentle release. Strong connection, gentle release. Like a really big connection, but make sure that you're not squeezing your bottom to do it. You mustn't squeeze your bottom, okay? So you'll feel your glutes are sort of on your knees. They're not completely raw, but don't squeeze bottom. That's the key. You've got to just go up through the diamond. That's all you're doing. There's no bottom squeezing. And we want it to be really strong. It might not feel like that at the moment, but you're just imagining that as much as you can give on this day, in this moment right now, the more you practice doing that, the stronger that connection will be. And that's how you do it. But you've got to not try and make it stronger by squeezing the bottom, because then it won't do anything at all. You're just working these muscles. Awesome. Just do a couple more, nice and strong. Now see if you can go back to contract, release, contract, release, contract, release, contract, release. Shh. 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 And then when you start to get better at it, shh, 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 but it's difficult. And you've got to make sure you don't just hold in and then relax. It's literally in, out, contract, release, contract, release, contract, release. That's how quick firing it's going, okay? So you've got your 3 connections. You've got your slow, you've got your fast, and you've got your strong, yeah? So, all without squeezing the bottom. Okay, guys, well done. Come and stand up. And let's just do some single leg work, thinking about our pelvic floor. So I'm going to get you just to lift one leg and try not to lean onto the side, place it down. Notice how balanced you are. Notice if that feels actually not too bad now that we've worked the pelvic floor. Exhale, lift. Inhale, down. Exhale, lift. She said, inhale, down. Now, when you lift the leg, this is not bracing and tensing. I only want you to think about your pelvic floor. Pull up through the diamond. Release. Draw up through the diamond. Release. Draw up through your diamond. Release. And again. And just you're noticing how the sides might feel different. One side feels different to the other. If there's any changes, if it's getting better as you're doing it. And relax. Okay, let's go back to that thoracic. If the thoracic spine is really stiff and rigid, that has a knock-on effect on the pelvic floor. So we always want to make sure our upper back is mobile. So let's just go into like a bit of a tandem. Okay, you don't have to turn to the side. I'm just going to turn this way so you can see the position better. So I've got one foot slightly forward than the other, just hip width apart, yeah? Just from where they were and there, not on the tight rope. I've just got a little bit of space between them. And you're just going to lift the same arm as the leg that's in front. It's going to lift up and just open, look behind you, just stretch out through that spine. And again, lift up and let both arms reach out, open the chest, lifting up, bring it down. Let's go again. Inhale and exhale. We're not doing any pelvic floor contractions at the moment. We're just thinking about it engaging. We're not trying to do anything. We know it's there working for us autonomously and lifting, but we're not actively really at the moment trying to think about when we're pulling it up. We're just moving through the spine and getting some nice rotation and stretching that thoracic. Let's do one more. And then change sides, lovely. Okay, so the same arm as the front leg is going to come up and then you stretch it out. Awesome. Lift nice and tall. Try and make sure that you're not straining your neck. Reaching those arms into opposite directions. And then relax. Okay, come back down to the floor. What's important as well is that you've got mobility and flexibility in your hips and in your hamstrings. So hamstring stretching is actually really important when it comes to pelvic floor. So I'm just going to take a little bit of a stretch here. Just lift one leg up. Make sure you don't lift your bottom up. Keep the bottom on the floor. Just dorsiflex the ankle and bring your leg in just to where it feels like it's good. If there's a little bit of a bend in the knee, that's okay. But just think about lengthening this bit. This is the bit we're stretching. So it doesn't matter if the knee is not completely straight. If you're here, but you've got a straight leg, you're not really stretching this bit. If I bring that leg in closer, yeah, I don't want to completely bend because then it's not stretching either. You've got to get to that furthest point that you can open the knee without curling your bottom off, because it's the bit between here and here that we want to feel like we're stretching. So actually, if I keep my thigh quite close to my body and then unfold at the knee, I can get a nice stretch in the hamstring. Bit by bit, gradually, millimetre by millimetre, it starts to open. Awesome, let's change legs. So you're just going to lift the leg, dorsiflex the ankle, so that's plantar flex, that's dorsiflex. You're keeping the leg close to you but not curling off. And try and open that knee as much as you can without the leg going away from you. So if you stretching the leg out means the leg goes out here, we've not stretched the muscle. Keep the leg in and then unfold. And release. Okay. We're now going to relax the pelvic floor because that's really, really important. Okay. So with your knees and feet together, just let your knees drop out. One goes one way, one goes the other. Arms down by the side of the body. Just make sure your head's not tipping backwards. You want to be looking at the ceiling in front of you, not the ceiling behind you. So we've drawn up through the diamond, but now we're going to go the other way. Okay, so you're going to take a breath in. And as you breathe out, I want you just to open the doors to the pelvic floor. You're not pushing, but just imagining a little doors just opening. And when you inhale, just bring it back. It's sort of like if your pelvic floor was an elevator, and we are at ground floor, we're going to be going down to the basement and then back up to ground floor. Down to the basement and back up to ground floor, but we're not going up any higher through the levels. We're only going down and back to ground floor. Every time you breathe out, you're going to open the doors and go down. And just really connect with the breathing. Like I say, because sometimes when you've really worked the muscles for a whole hour, then they can get a little bit stuck in the contraction phase, and we want them to, every muscle needs to be able to contract and relax efficiently. So it's not just about tightening and pulling the pelvic floor up all the time, it's got to be able to relax. Otherwise we end up with like it's not a weak, it's just hypertense, which is going to cause exactly the same problems as a weak pelvic floor. Okay, just do a couple more. You're just allowing that pelvic floor just to open, like a little flower that's just opening. Okay, and the next one's going to be your last one. And then just gently bring your knees into your chest. And you might want to do like a little circle one way and the other. And then just come up to a seated position. Well done, everybody. Okay, so now we're back where we started. Okay, you should feel like we've workshopped those muscles quite a lot now. So you should actually feel just sitting there like they're sort of, even if you weren't feeling anything in the beginning, hopefully there's a little bit of something going on there. And if there isn't, it's okay. Everyone's going to you know, they will get stronger. It just takes time and everybody's different, okay? So you've done amazing today. Lots of exercise there to practice, and I hope you enjoyed that. Give yourselves a clap. Have a lovely Sunday, and I will see you on the next class.